You said that you were introduced to all types of dance at Arts Umbrella, which is, for people who don't know, the most amazing facility for the arts for kids in Vancouver.
Yes.
Um, did you always think you were going to go into contemporary dance? Uh, how did that whole discourse between classical ballet and contemporary dance happen?
Well, so we at Arts Umbrella, you train in ballet, and then you have ballet every day, and then you have different like modern, jazz, contemporary, hip hop. And then we would have like different workshops like African. I never did tap actually, but we'd have like different forms of dance come in. And then um, but with classical ballet, like I love classical ballet, like all the variations on point, tutus, everything. But there comes to be a point where like to do it professionally right now, where the dance world is for classical ballet, it requires like a certain strength and mobility in your body, and to be able to do the work safely. And so my body type, like, I'm not super flexible, don't have like the, super arched feet. So point work, I really trained hard to be able to do point work, and because I did it at Ballet BC as well. But definitely did not come easily to my body, and starts to create some injuries and things like that. So I never really considered classical ballet as like my way in, just because it was a little bit difficult for me. Whereas contemporary dance, I could like more freely express myself without having to like, oh, is my like foot pointed the right way? Like, it just came
The
out like more
constraints
naturally.
of the,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And contemporary dance is so broad, and there's so many different ways, like, it's really anything. With like, there's a technique and a training, and different forms that go into it. But definitely it just felt more like I could be myself, and yeah, express myself the way that my body wants to. Yeah. So I think at an Arts Umbrella, there was kind of that support for that, and the people that they would bring in would like, I did that, like the movement kind of lined up with where I was at, and then the connection with Ballet BC, they're doing contemporary and contemporary ballet. So I was like, oh, okay, great, like that's a
Everything
place that I
connected.
wanna,
And
yeah.
I imagine there was some feedback as well, advice in
Yes.
those times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, like the director, she looks at everyone and she's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And then also like, where can you go that you're gonna feel supported, and like, you're gonna stand out, and all of these things. Like, no one's telling you like, oh, you have to go here, and yeah, which is great, especially, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that, and certainly from my experience via my kids at Arts Umbrella, that it's a very um, holistic environment,
Yeah.
because I think the concern, uh, certainly moms have sending their kids to dance,
Yeah.
is body image.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you hear like nightmare scenarios where girls are weighed before each
Yeah.
session, and
I
you
know.
get xed off if you're
Yeah.
not at a certain weight.
Yeah, I've heard those stories too. There have been a few girls that have come to Arts Umbrella from other schools, and like they're not even done puberty yet, and they're like, being weighed and measured and all of these things. And it's like, no wonder you have an eating disorder, because like it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah,
no.
it's
But
unhealthy.
yeah, like Arts Umbrella has been very inclusive, and there's never any of that talk. It's just like, okay, this is your body. How are you going to make it work for what you want to do?
Mm.
And like strength and eating healthy and all of these things. Like, it's like, yeah, there's not any of that pressure.
Is that becoming more the norm, or is it still an outlier?
I think slowly, definitely ballet has a bad rep for that. But I think it's slowly, people are slowly waking up to, yeah. it's just, I think there's been a certain type of body that's been, idolized, and
Mm,
people actually don't have enough education to be able to train other bodies. And so they just are like, okay, no, you have that body, you can do that, instead of taking it takes time to work with different bodies and understand different bodies. And yeah, I think it's slowly changing, and
mhm.
it definitely is long overdue.
It sure is, yeah. And
Yeah.
ballet, I have to say, it's pretty destructive on the feet.
Yeah.
It's like you
It's
see these
hard.
photographs of these gnarled
I know.
toes, it's like, "Oh my god,
I know.
can you walk after
Yeah.
your career?"
It's hard on like the bunions, and like
Yeah.
you're just shoving your feet into like this little like canvas and glue shoe with like yeah, it's not fun, but
No.
it is a wonderful, like doing point, it's a wonderful feeling when you're up there, and like the amount of things that you can do that defy, like, yeah, it's
Really? Is it a euphoric, experience?
yeah, like you're just like, you can turn, you can like the like bourrée, like there's so many things, and especially the way it looks, it's just got this like ethereal kind of, yeah,
Mm.
it's yeah, impressive.
Well, you were already in this professional, program, so that happened pretty early on. Are all the graduates automatically, professional, or, like, when did you realize this is my career?
Right. I think going into the grad program, so like throughout high school, you're in the professional program, and then there's a 2-year program after you graduate high school that you can do. And that's a full day program. And so it was then I was like, okay, this is what I want, especially in grade 12. I had planned to apply for universities and everything. And at one point, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to save my application money, and I'll probably just go in this direction and hope for the best. No, but I was really serious about it. And then in the graduate program, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm gonna make it happen. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's true, like there are a lot of dancers that actually go through the graduate program and then decide not to dance afterwards, which um it's still like they still find it so valuable, like the
Mhm.
things, like just life skills that you learn, work ethic and discipline and working with people, and it just like all the things that they've taken with them
Oh,
on
absolutely.
different
You
careers.
never lose from an experience like that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 When did you, allow yourself to think, "I am talented"? Because that's in
Yeah.
women especially, a big deal.
Yeah. I I feel like honestly, like this year. So like dancing at Ballet BC, so I was there for 8 years, and then I left for 2 years, and then I just came back with the new director this season. Um, and obviously, like, that you are good. Like, I got into a company, I'm being used. Yeah, but there's also like, you look at your colleagues and you're like, wow, they're so good. And, and there's a certain humility that like it's good to have. but,
Mhm.
but then I think it was when I left and, like traveled around the world, I did other auditions and saw like, I don't know, like hundreds of dancers in these auditions who are amazing. But I also was like, oh, wow, okay. Like, I'm actually also not like, I
I
compare.
fit in.
Yeah, exactly. And um it was kind of then that I was like, okay, like I'm doing something, like
Mm.
this is, yeah. And then coming back and feeling, I don't know, just like seeing, the grass on the other side. I don't know, something about it just gave me some more like confidence of being like, okay, the work that I've been doing is something, and like I really do have something to offer here. And like it just taking a step away gave me a chance to kind of realize that.
Mm.
um and yeah, so I don't know. And maybe also the pandemic and taking time away and just realizing like, you know what, you better be grateful. Like I'm just grateful for what I have and to be doing this. And um yeah, I feel like, okay, you're good. Yeah, I mean, not that it's like, it's because it's a, especially in dance, it's like a whole thing. Like, as soon as you say that something's good, like they're gonna stop working and like stop striving for something. And it's like, no, it's okay to like, yeah, acknowledge that. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it doesn't mean
Yeah. You
stop
step
striving.
into your visibility, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's being authentic, really, because if you suppress that part, you're
Yeah,
not really expressing yourself in your fullness to other people.
that's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
What were the pros and cons of being uh, in such a driven environment at a very young age?
The after school experience, like I injured my knee and I had to have surgery. So I
Mm.
took 6 months off of dance when I was 16, or turning 15 and 16. And so for a while there, so I would only go to school half day. And then while I was injured, I took up extra classes. So I went to school full day. And that was terrifying because
Mm.
I used to have my dance friends, and now I'm like in the rest of the high school and I have no friends and all my friends have left. And so like that kind of social, um like social skills kind, I don't know, like you you're not part of the high school, like a lot of kids don't know you, and like,
Mm.
you know, the normal things that kids would do, like hang out after school, like go to someone's house, like we would, yes, we would do that with our own dance friends occasionally, but there was just no time. Like you finish dance
Yeah.
late, 8:30 at night, you do your homework, I'm dancing on Sundays. So kind of like that social aspect, definitely. But uh also I didn't really get into any trouble. So that was like, which is, you know, neither here nor
There
there.
we
You
go.
learn those experiences. But like that kind of like, you know, I was very focused. So that was kind of, that was a plus. But yeah, I think more so like at being a young company member, like when I joined the company at 20 and stuff like that, like sacrificing again, like lots of, like at that age my friends were like going out to clubs and stuff and all, you
Mm.
know, and which I would, but like again, like, you know, I'm an athlete, so like there's a certain amount of taking care of your body and all that. And so those kind of like, your life is kind of like fast tracked past all of those, you know, maybe, yeah, landmark times in young people's lives. But yeah.
Well, the unique thing about dance is that the typical career, and that's less true, I guess, of contemporary dance, is very short.
Yes.
So, how do you approach that mentally and emotionally, that you have like
Like only a few, yeah.
a dozen years or on
Yeah.
average, I guess?
Yeah. Um, yeah. It's funny, as I get older, when I was younger, I was like, oh, I'm only gonna dance till I'm like 28. That's so old for a dancer. And then as I get older, I'm 30 now, and I'm like, oh, well, no, I still have a lot of juice left. So I think the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, there's so many more possibilities, and like choreographing, teaching, kind of like going in and out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel the stress of like the end of my career happening. I think I'm just like waking up to like the new avenues that I can take, and kind of deciding which one to take. But it's true. My mom would always be like, oh, okay, what's your plan B? What are you gonna do after you stop dancing? And that would freak me out when I
Mm.
was younger. And now that I'm kind of like heading towards that, it's not so scary anymore, which is, I'm yeah, grateful for that. Because yeah, I used to really be like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Am I gonna have to go back to school? Like yeah. But now I'm kind of like, oh, things are gonna keep showing up. Yeah.
When you look at it, though, the for contemporary dance, which I guess is not as punishing as classical,
Yeah.
uh, what was the thinking about cutting a career short? I imagine injuries number one, and body imbalances, starting a family, but like, who says that you have to quit?
Exactly. And I think that's something that maybe like dancers put on themselves, like, oh, am I relevant? Am I like, you know, who's gonna want to watch this? Or like, I don't know, but I see so many like Margie Gillis, I think she's in her 60s. And she's like, I watched her perform 2.5 years ago. She is so compelling, so stunning, so like her body is just like so engaged, like everything. And like there's so many dancers in their 40s who are still, and they just adapted, like they have so much to offer still, and they are just doing it in the way that their bodies can express that. And I think that's like, I just did a show with my friend's mom, who's a presenter in the city, and she's 65, hasn't stopped dancing for 20 years, and she just did a new solo, and it was unreal. Like, she's so strong, and I was like, oh my god. So all of this stuff that I've been telling myself is just my own, you know, fears, and you know, if you want to do it, you'll find a way to do it.
Exactly. And I think things are changing. I would hope that
Yes,
there's less ageism
exactly.
in dance.
Yeah.
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 That's encouraging.
Yeah, I know.
Yay. Because actually I was going to ask about ageism and whether that's a thing or not.
Right. I feel like you know, in the community, dance community here, I don't feel it. Obviously, I'm not, maybe not at the, someone who is a bit older might feel like kind of that disconnect or whatnot. But in the contemporary dance scene, I think it's really, age is not really a thing, especially in the company. Like it's I always found it amazing to see older dancers, and you learn from them, and you're just like, they've like their physicality and mental like experience and maturity has like come together, and it's just like incredible. And it's, yeah, I think especially in contemporary dance, there's a little bit more like wiggle room for how you use your body. And so I think it's almost more satisfying. And I don't mean, it's like young dancers are fantastic, talented, so strong, but like to see a mature artist, there's no amount of turns and jumps and things that compare to like seeing that come together. And yeah.
I have really basic questions I've always wanted to ask dancers. Again, I preface this by saying you're also a professional elite athlete. So do you cross train?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny, when I was younger, I didn't, because my body was, you know, feeling great.
You didn't have to.
And now because I've had 2 knee surgeries. And so I do a lot of cycling, which really helps my knee. I do K-box, which is this like platform. It has this like wheel and a harness that kind of, it's like eccentric and concentric. And
oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah. So like, it's really good for my quads and glutes and core training. And I see my physio. I used to do Pilates. I'm not doing it right now just because I don't have any time. But I try and keep up with the exercises on my own. But yeah, and I do like, I mean, not anymore, but I would do spin classes or some kind of conditioning class when things were open. Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I don't think I could dance all day without cross training. Yeah. Yeah.
And when you do leisure activities or cross training, is there a fear of injury? I mean, can you go snowboarding, or do you think I can't really afford to go snowboarding?
No, I know. Yeah, it's funny. The first time I injured my knee, the day before, it was my friend's birthday, and they were going skiing and snowboarding, and my mom was like, "You're not going." And so I was sitting there, and then, but the funny thing is, the next day at dance, I did a jump and tore my meniscus. But I've never like, I just can't imagine doing something like and being like, oh, that could have been avoided. Even hiking, like I love hiking, and I did do a bit in the summer, but I'm always really cautious. And yeah, it's just like constantly like, if I roll my ankle, then I'm out of it, I'm out for however long, or yeah. So I think
when you're out, I mean, that affects the whole core, right?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a fine balance. I do think about it a lot. And also my body, I just feel it in my body. Like I can't just like go for a run or go, I have to like, I need a few days to recover before I have to go back to dance. And yeah.
And does the company have a nutritionist and a RNT? I mean, how does that look in terms of how do they care for you, or is that on you?
Well, we have a physiotherapist that works with us. It's not directly connected with the company, but like they have a relationship, but we pay for our own therapy. We get insurance, but it's not in the building. We have to, it's after hours. We basically do have to kind of take it upon ourselves. Nutritionist, I think sometimes we have like people come in and talk to us, and but it's quite different. When I was dancing in Switzerland, it's like a whole other thing there in Europe. So they have
really?
like in-house physio, RMT, like physio room. It's like it's great. But they just have more government funding, and it's just kind of built into their system. Yeah.
Well, that leads into a question I was going to ask later, but since you have worked both in Canada and the US and Europe, what are the differences in how they approach dance and how they treat dancers and audiences? How do they differ or not?
I think the audiences all feel super supportive. I'm trying to think, depending on where we are, like, and depending what pieces that we're performing, obviously people react to, some of the more entertaining pieces more, or the more kind of like abstract out there pieces. Like I can't really think of a common, like, I wouldn't say like Europeans are more like, they get the more abstract, like, no, it's kind of, it varies all over. But I think I don't know. I feel like Vancouver, I can only speak for like the West Coast, really. I think Vancouver, like it's coming, like the dance scene is really developing. It's I can only speak for like my friend group, family, like just how they have been exposed to dance. They're seeing more of it now, and they're understanding more of it. It wasn't always the case. They're like, oh, like the typical, like, oh, so you think you can dance? Like, do you do like, oh, you work at a restaurant as well? Like, it's a hobby for you, that kind of thing. I think people are understanding more. Definitely, like in Europe, people just like dance as a job. They know it's part of like the culture. It's just been around more.
There's more status attached to it. And obviously they really treat their dancers well, at least in Switzerland. Was that your experience elsewhere too?
In Switzerland, I didn't dance in Germany, but I set a piece on a company there. And it's just like the way they pay their dancers, the way, the building, like they have a whole, like you're part of the opera house, like everything is just, it's so different. It's really lovely, like, to feel that. But there is something about, I enjoy being here, is that like everything's new. There's no way of doing something, like, so the company, I think, has a bit more freedom to kind of like, okay, no, we're going to push it in this direction. Like we, and the dancers definitely, like, I feel very much a part of like the company's journey and like moving forward, and we're like really in it. So it feels like you're closer to, I don't know, the making things happen. You're not just
a little bit
like
edgier.
an employee kind of. There's a bit more freedom, I think. Yeah. So that's nice.
Old world versus new world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.